One of the most iconic paintings by American artist Andrew Wyeth is Christina's World, a mysterious depiction of a woman lying in the grass, reaching out toward a distant farmhouse. Painted in 1948, Wyeth drew inspiration from the real Christina Olson for this masterpiece. In 2017, author Christina Baker Kline crafted a novel, A Piece of the World, that delves into the life of the woman behind this renowned artwork. Kline's book serves as a fictionalized autobiography of Christina, a complex character who often grapples with bitterness and frustration. Christina reflects on her upbringing and lifelong residence on the farm, exploring how it has functioned both as a sanctuary and a prison. The narrative unfolds in a non-chronological manner, with a middle-aged Christina looking back on her life. Born in the 1890s in Cushing, a small town in Maine, Christina is the child of a Swedish immigrant father and a mother with distant ties to Nathaniel Hawthorne's family. Her family, which includes 3 brothers, resides on a farm that has been in her mother's lineage for generations. As a young girl, Christina is afflicted by a peculiar illness that affects her legs, making walking challenging and causing stiffness in her arms and hands. Life on the farm is demanding, characterized by never-ending chores and the absence of electricity. Despite her disability, Christina is a bright and inquisitive child who finds solace in her education, even though she faces some social isolation. She becomes an avid reader, with a particular affinity for the poetry of Emily Dickinson, another woman who lived a secluded life. After completing her schooling, Ms. Crowley, Christina's compassionate teacher, extends an opportunity for her to train as a teacher and eventually take over her position at the school. This appears to be a golden opportunity for Christina to pursue, but her parents adamantly refuse to permit her departure from the farm. They rely on her to maintain the farm's operations and cannot afford to hire a replacement. Thus, Christina's initial glimpse of a better life is dashed. At the age of 20, Christina crosses paths with Walton Hall, a young man from Boston spending his summers in Cushing at his cousin's residence. Walton and Christina quickly kindle a romantic relationship, sharing a mutual love for literature and relishing each other's company. For a time, he continues to visit Cushing every summer, and their relationship blossoms. For years later, Walton expresses his desire to marry Christina, offering her another chance to break free from the farm's relentless toil and drudgery. Regrettably, Walton's family belongs to a higher social class than the Olsons, and though he pledges to persuade his parents, he abruptly ceases correspondence with Christina after their 4th summer together. News soon reaches her that he has become engaged to someone from a similarly esteemed background. Heartbroken, Christina renounces love. As her disease progressively worsens, further restricting her mobility, Christina summons the strength to journey to Boston for consultations with several doctors, only to receive disheartening news that nothing can be done. Back on the farm, her father falls mysteriously ill. Desperate, he depletes the family's savings to purchase a purported remedy, which ultimately proves to be a complete fraud. Meanwhile, rumors about Walton's treatment of Christina swirl throughout Cushing. Fed up with the gossip, Christina resolves to sever ties with her supposed friend, Gertrude, who is at the heart of the scandal. By the 1920s, only Christina and her older brother, Al, remain to care for the farmhouse and their elderly, ailing parents, as the younger siblings have moved away and started families of their own. Al finds an opportunity to leave the farm behind when he enters a relationship with a woman interested in marrying him. However, he soon grapples with guilt, realizing that leaving the disabled Christina, who can barely walk, to care for their parents and manage the farm alone is not fair. Consequently, he ends his relationship and returns to the farm. In 1939, Christina's 17-year-old neighbor, Betsy, introduces her to Andrew Wyeth, a 22-year-old painter captivated by the house and the farm's beauty. Andrew seeks permission to paint there, and a year later, he and Betsy become engaged while he frequently visits the farm to create landscapes. Andrew finds inspiration in Christina's life, and their connection evolves into a deep friendship. A few years later, tragedy strikes as Andrew's father dies in a car accident. Devoting himself entirely to painting, Andrew begins using Christina as a muse, eventually asking her to sit for a portrait. When the portrait is completed, Christina feels that he has portrayed her as too solemn. As the years pass, Christina's legs weaken to the point where she can barely walk, resorting to crawling or dragging herself on the ground whenever possible. She eventually confides in Andrew, sharing the story of her life and its disappointments. In 1948, Andrew unveils his latest painting to Christina, titled Christina's World. It depicts a young version of her from behind, reaching for a farmhouse across a field. The novel concludes with Christina acknowledging that Andrew has perfectly captured the beauty of her life within the artwork. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.